Greetings and welcome to week 6 of EDUC 539 Scientifically Based Reading Instruction. Today we're going to begin the module on assessments and evaluation. So for week 6 you're going to be introduced to a few tools that you're going to be using with your practicum student. Something that I just want to remind everyone about with assessment tools and evaluations is so often we are driven to get a number because we can progress monitor numbers and they're quantitative, which is helpful for, again, showing progress monitoring on IEPs. But most importantly, what I find most important is that we are using these tools to drive our instruction. So I'm not as driven by that number that I'm getting, rather more what is the assessment telling me about my student, what they can do, and what are my next steps with that student. This is where the continuum of literacy learning for this course comes in really handy. After using these tools, assessment tools, you can dig into that text and it helps you find where your students are, what they can do based on those assessments, and then what are the next steps to keep accelerating their progress forward. So in this week, I'm just going to click here on Objectives, Readings, and Resources. There's quite a few things that are going on. After this week is completed, you'll have knowledge and implemented a variety of assessment tools that are effective for planning literacy instruction. And then you're going to be developing a plan for using formal and informal tools to assess student development. So first off this week, we have several PDFs that have some readings for you to look at. And each of these, well, I'll actually go over each one of them. They are different assessments that you give. So the first one is hearing and recording sounds. This assessment you'll have the student, you're going to read a sentence to the student, and they're going to write that sentence as best possible as they possibly can. This is a very emergent assessment and skill for students. So if you're working with a child that's over the second or over grade 2, you might not find this something that you'll need to do, but it really just depends on where your student is within their literacy acquisition and development. So hearing or recording sounds is not a spelling test. It's merely seeing if that student can listen and hear the sounds within that sentence. The directions are on the PDF on how to administer and analyze that assessment. Concepts of print is another emergent assessment, and it's actually concepts about print, and this assessment really tends to lean towards those early emergent literacy skills, looking at a book, directionality, words, letters, print, pictures. So concepts of print, again, if your practicum student is an older student, you may not want to administer this to them, but it would be good practice if they're willing to try it out for you. Concepts about print and hearing recording sounds are both are adaptations from Mari Clay's observation survey, and are used again to look for those early emergent literacy skills. The next assessment that I have here is Words Their Way Spelling Inventory, and there's not 3 assessments, there's 3 different levels to choose from within this assessment. This is I don't want to say just a spelling, it's a spelling test to start. So you have a list of words. Depending on the student's level, you pick the appropriate level, and you give them the spelling test. But after the spelling test, instead of getting words right or wrong, with this inventory, you look and you analyze those students' errors and look at what they were able to get right and what they were starting to fall apart at. And then there's several stages within the Words Their Way spelling inventory stages. The analysis portion breaks that down for you. I have another integrity session titled Practice Assessments, and that one will go over how to analyze the Words Their Way spelling inventory in better detail. Word Cafe, this is an article that I'd like you to read, and then you're going to administer this cafe. It's a 10-minute writing exercise for students, and it looks at complexity, accuracy, and fluency within students' ability to write words. This is like a word spree, so you'll have the student write any words they can think of for 10 minutes. Their directions on administration are within the article and also for analysis. The next assessment you'll be giving is the student-friendly writing rubric, is what you're going to use to analyze a writing sample from your student. You're going to have the student write for 10 minutes on a prompt given to them by you, self-selected, depending on how well you know the student. Try to get their interests, something that they're interested in writing about and that they can actually write about for 10 minutes. After they completed the 10-minute writing sample, you're going to use this rubric to analyze their writing. This rubric is from the 6 traits of writing that's used in many school districts, so you probably see it if you're teaching currently or when you're out there, but it's a pretty popular way to address looking at writing. However, when you're a younger writer, and some of your students may, if you're using a student in kindergarten or first grade, you might not get that 10 minutes of writing. And if you don't, that's okay. Try to have the student write a story. And as definition of a story by Mari Clay is just maybe a sentence. And then within that sentence or whatever writing that you do pull from them during that time, go to the continuum of literacy learning and analyze the writing using those early writing skills based on what the continuum says. Have that drive your instruction and your analysis of the student's writing. If you have an older student that doesn't end up writing the 10 minutes, that's all right. Just encourage them to try as hard as they can, and then write down the amount of time they actually spent writing. It is a good indicator when a student isn't able to produce 10 minutes of writing, just depending on what you're noticing, if it's endurance or if they're having trouble pulling ideas. It's great information for you as the assessor, and then to guide your instruction and where to take the student next. Those are the 6 assessments. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 assessments that you'll be giving this week with your practicum student. And then there's also 3 Tegrity sessions for you to view. The 604s you'll want to watch those. The practicum assessments really goes over these again, but then digs real deep into how to analyze the Words Their Way spelling inventory. If you're familiar with the Words Their Way spelling inventory and already know how to analyze that, then feel free just to skip this Tegrity session. All right, so go back to week 6. I would like to go over the assignments for this week. Again, you're beginning your practicum assignment, and I'll go over that in a minute, but the assignment that you're going to be writing up at the end of this week is the assessment plan. So after viewing the Tegrity sessions and using those assessment tools, and then also other from anything else that you've learned throughout this semester or within your own repertoire of understandings, I want you to create a plan on how you're going to summarize in writing the important elements of knowledge and skill and assessment. You're going to choose 1 primary grade, so I'd say pre-K or K to 3, and 1 intermediate grade, 4 to 6. Develop a plan for each grade using formal and informal tools to assess your students' literacy development. You want to follow the standards from the syllabus. So in the syllabus, our standards here are standards E. You should be able to teach or understand the teacher of children in kindergarten through 6 must have knowledge of and ability to use a variety of assessment tools and practices to plan and evaluate effective reading instruction, including, and you'll want to include all of these areas here, A through E, within your plan. This plan is due Sunday night next week, and looking for probably 1 to 2 pages in length. That's Again, I'm not a page counter. If it takes you longer, that's absolutely fine. As long as you include all of this information with this understanding for one primary grade and one intermediate grade, you should be just fine. Now, as your practicum is getting started, you are going to be journaling each time you're with your student, and that will be turned in during week 8. Your journal, you'll send that in to me. But if we look at the preview here, you can see that you're going to be giving each of these assessments with your practicum student. You're going to be submitting assessment protocols and supporting documentation at the end of week 7 based on your practicum time with your student and the results that you get. And by doing this, you'll be either photocopying it or taking pictures of them and scanning them in and sending them to me. So with your student, you'll administer these 6 assessments, and then next week, after you finish the QRI assessment with your student, you'll be writing up a parent report about what you noticed with the student and the assessments. So we'll go into more of that during week 7. I did forget to talk about the student oral language observation matrix. This is the final assessment that you're going to be giving your student, and really it's just an observation matrix. So it's nothing that you're doing extra. You're just going to observe your student and their oral language. This matrix gives you a good understanding in several different areas of what that oral language should look like and where possibly your students are. Typically, you'll want to observe your student 3, maybe 4 times in different settings to do these kind of observation matrices, but in this instance, because of how our class is set up, you're only going to be giving them one. If you might only have a chance to observe them once based on when you're giving their assessments to fill this out, and that's okay. Really, I'm just trying to give you exposure to the oral language piece of this this standard and these activities. So sorry, I apologize for forgetting that one, but again, it's nothing that you'll be giving the student. You're just going to be observing the student and then completing the matrix. So again, all of your assignments for this is actually due week 7, so that's in 2 weeks. But to get you thinking about it, do start now thinking about putting all of this together and submitting it. Each time you meet your student, you will be journaling, and I'm just looking for briefly introduction journal. What do you plan on doing with a student? A couple sentences, and then after you're done, a reflection on how your session went. So the first maybe 1 or 2 sessions, maybe 3 sessions, will be you giving the assessments, and then just reflecting on how the administration went of those assessments, or how your student responded, and where did you learn and grow throughout that session. So that journal will be turned into me for week 7. All right, so that is week 6, and if you have questions, as always, feel free to contact me. Thanks.